This Shabbos is called Shabbos Hagadol, the Great Shabbos. It's the Shabbos right before we start the Seder, right before Pesach, which is going to start Saturday night. But the Shabbos before, we're going to read in the synagogue this Torah portion called Tzav. So Tzav means to command. And God is commanding Aaron, the high priest, commanding with this very language of you have to do it. It's really important. It's not God speaking, it's not God saying, it's God commanding. And I want to talk about a mitzvah as being something that is enabling us to connect to something bigger than ourselves, to connect to God, to connect to the divine. So a mitzvah, we might loosely translate as a good deed, but really it's a connector. And God says to Aaron, do this command. I'm going to command you to bring these offerings. And the first offering we read about in this week's Torah portion is a completely burnt up offering. There's going to be nothing left. Other offerings, there were leftovers that got eaten by the priests, but there's nothing left. It's completely burnt up in the altar. It's a completely burnt up offering, and it is brought because of negative thinking. Thoughts that we have that we shouldn't have. Negative thoughts, unholy thoughts, thoughts of not good thoughts about other people, etc., etc. So we're bringing our offerings because we've had thoughts that we shouldn't have had. Not deeds, but thoughts. And it's a commandment. It's not a saying, it's not a speaking, it's God commanding Aaron to bring these offerings and burn them up. So we know that fire has ways to be very productive and very good, and we have fire that's also very destructive. The fire, when we put the offering and it's completely burnt up, we're using fire for good. And what we're doing is we're saying that these thoughts I have, I want to eliminate them from me. And it's a commandment, it's an imperative. God's saying, if you want to come close to me, which you really do, because that's what's going to give your life greater meaning. If you want to come close to me, then you have to eliminate your negative thinking. That's the nugget that I'd like to bring out, that negative thinking is the precursor to how we act and what we do and how we are in the world. So if we can actually control our thoughts, we're going to be in really good place. So God is commanding Aaron, bring these offerings that are brought because you have negative thoughts and burn them completely. There's nothing going to be left over. And wouldn't that be great if we could eliminate negative thinking? How much better our acts would be, because they all follow after our thoughts. So when we're bringing these offerings, and let's replace offerings or sacrifices with gifts. When I want to connect to, let's say I want to connect to somebody who has everything. I believe that they have everything and I want to bring them a gift. But they don't need anything. God doesn't need our offerings. Why are we bringing the gift? Because I want a connection. I want to connect to that person. I want them to know I'm thinking about them. I want them to know that I care about them. I bring them a gift of flowers or chocolates. Or they don't need the flowers and the chocolates, but it's me expressing my desire of connection to that person. So too, when we were bringing the offerings in the temple or in the tabernacle in the desert, it was our desire to come close. The Hebrew word for korban, for sacrifice offering, is korban, is connection, close. I want to come close to God. A mitzvah is a connector. All these things are about us connecting. And God is saying, in order to do that, you have to eliminate your negative thinking. Take the fire and burn that off. Allow your inner self, which is also a fire. It says that the soul of man is the candle of God, we have a fire inside of us, and can we use it for good? Can we be passionate in our service? And the fire in the tabernacle never went out. Just like our fire never goes out. We always have this fire. We're using it for good or we're using it for bad. Are we stoking it? Is it alive in us? Aaron, the high priest, brought the same offerings every day and he cleared away. He was the one who came in and cleared off the ashes. We learned about the first job every morning and at night was to clear off the ashes. He was like taking the trash out. Here's the high priest, the older brother of Moses, and the first thing he does in the morning is take the trash out to remember to be humble, to remember your role. Don't be arrogant. And don't we do that now as we come closer to Passover, to Pesach, where we're going to, on Friday, we're going to burn our chametz. We're going to burn our bread and our pasta and our cakes and cookies, whatever you have that is chametz that you want to get rid of in your house. It's symbolic. We're symbolically burning off our negativity, our arrogance, whatever it is that puffs us up, that makes us feel that we're all in charge and we're all in control. Burn that off. And so too, when we burnt these burnt offerings, burn the whole thing up so you can get close to the flame that's inside you, and then bring that flame out. So what we have is this burnt offering, completely burnt up. What we have to do is burn off all our negative thinking. We want to burn off negative thinking and then replace the negative thinking with positive thoughts. Thoughts of how to learn more Torah, thoughts of how to be kinder to people, or how we can go out of our way to invite somebody, or we can be more charitable, or we can pray. Like, take the thoughts and bring them up. And I think it's really wonderful, because you can get very stuck in all the different animals that were brought for different sacrifices and so on. But if we think about what we're doing, we're bringing ourselves close. That was a korban. We're bringing ourselves close to God, and we're being commanded to do it. Sometimes it's hard when somebody says you have to do this. You don't want to do something that somebody tells you to do. And so even more so, we are taught that when we do something because we're commanded to do it, it's actually a higher level, because we have to overcome that knee-jerk reaction that says, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. There's an arrogance in that, and we have to work on our humility. When we burn our chametz on Friday, it's about, on some level, it's about getting in touch with our true selves, and being humble and recognizing the good. We also learn in this week's Torah portion about the offerings that we brought because we were so grateful. We were so thankful. We are so thankful. The Hebrew word for gratitude is hakaret hatov. I'm recognizing the good. I'm recognizing the good. I'm recognizing that what I have, that my life, the even just that I'm alive is a gift, that an undeserving gift. And when we recognize that we're receiving something and we're undeserving and we feel indebted to repay the giver, then we come with gratitude instead of an entitlement. And so the two things that I wanted to bring out in this week's Torah portion are the bringing our offerings, bringing our gifts is our desire to come close to God, our desire to purge ourselves of negative thinking and to replace our negative thinking with positive thinking. And one other thought I had is it says that you should bring these offerings in a holy place. And I heard a really interesting commentary on this holy place. So you think the holy place is the temple or the tabernacle, and this interpretation was suggesting that the holy place is our mouths. What comes out of our mouths, what goes into our mouths, are they holy? Are we eating the right foods? Are we eating matzah on Pesach night? Are we eating maror on Pesach night? These are commandments that we're commanded. This is the ikar, is to eat matzah and maror on Seder night. Are we using our mouths for good speech? Are we talking the Seder? It's about speaking. The Seder is about speaking. Even if you're on your own, you're supposed to speak it out alone on your own, speak it out. And recognizing God's involvement in our lives. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, that Aaron, the high priest, does every day is take the trash out. He has to clean off the ashes. He has to recognize his place, as do all of we. And when we do that, we can recognize the multitude of blessings that we have in our life and be so grateful for them and give thanks for them. And so I think that when we look at this week's Torah portion, which is right before we go into the Seder, right before we go into Passover, that what we're learning is to work on our speech, that our speech should be elevated, our speech should be refined, and our speech is predicated on our thinking. So when Aaron is commanded to bring this offering and burn it up completely, and the offering was brought because of negative, unholy thinking, that what we can do in our day is think about, is work on our own thoughts, because they are the precursor to what we say and what we do. And if we can elevate our thoughts, then we'll elevate the whole world. So I wish us all a wonderful Passover, a meaningful Passover, a kosher Passover. And we should all be successful in purging ourselves of negative thinking and open up our hearts and be passionate like the fire on the temple that never went out, that this fire inside of us should never go out, and the fire and the passion and the enthusiasm should be directed towards good, towards more Torah study, towards praying more intently, to being more charitable, to being kinder, to being more hospitable, and all these things that we have now instead of bringing the offerings in the temple. These are the things that we do now instead of. So I bless us that we should all be successful in elevating ourselves, in speaking well, in thinking well, and have a very meaningful Passover season.